Good morning, brave heroes, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Ash, this is HeroQuest, and today we're going to be looking at something else that I found at my not-so-local Hobby Lobby. Dragons, and also dragons. That's right, in the aisle that has the miniature animals and fuzzy green stuff that you place on your train dioramas, I found two bags of dragons, completely different scales, or you could say they're the same scale, they're just different sizes of dragon. We might have some baby dragons, some whelps here, and then we might have some full-grown lads here, which are still pretty small considering the size of the games that I'm going to be using them in. That's right, we're going to use these with HeroQuest, because of course we would. Have you even been watching the channel? But first, we need to unbox these, unbag, unpouch them, and see if we like them. I mean, I think we're gonna like them. The style looks really nice. I actually like the sculpts on these very much. I don't think I'm gonna have a problem with the aesthetic of either pack at all. This pack, I'm not as fond of. I wish there were some more variations, but generally the four-legged dragon with wings is probably my favorite dragon style. What is your favorite dragon style? Let me know in the comments below. Do you prefer a dragon that just has the hind legs and the wings for the front feet, or the wings tethered to the arms? Or do you like this style of dragon? Or are you more of like a really long boy with multiple arms, such as Shenlong, Chinese style dragon? Okay, so the first thing that I am noticing is that these are extremely flexible. They are not going to break. They're basically very rubbery, actually. And oh my goodness, we actually do have more than one aesthetic of dragon in that first pack. In the small pack, we have a Shenlong style dragon. I love that. I wonder if the second pack is going to have different styles of dragons after all. And I just couldn't see them all. We have here, this is an interesting dragon for sure. And by the way, these don't have to represent monsters in your tabletop dungeon games. These can represent easily pets, or sort of like hero characters. They could follow your heroes around, you could issue commands to them, you could basically control them as if they were a mercenary, or the Snow Dasher wolf pet from HeroQuest, for example. Second thing I noticed is probably just due to the manufacturing process. There is one of them that won't stand upright. This guy, he will not stand. I've got to probably use the hot water trick to get him reformed. You know what the hot water trick is? If you've had to mess with any of your HeroQuest miniatures, pulling them out of the black plastic trays in the original release while they were all kind of malformed, well, not all, it was a common issue, but it's not like it really happened to the vast majority of the figures that came with the games. The hot water trick basically just involves getting some water really hot. It doesn't have to be boiling. It can be like coffee pot hot, and then you can put a miniature in it, submerge your hands. This is how cool the water needs to be for you to be able to put your hands in it, and form the miniature to where you want, get it to stay in that position, pull your hands out and run cold water, or dunk it into some cold water. The colder the better, ice cold is great. And then you will have your miniature freeze back into place, and then that will be the position that it's in. This dragon here, he's not standing up. I'm gonna try the ice water trick on him. But the other dragons, they're doing a great job. They're doing, focus, the best they can. These guys are so small, you don't even have to use them as living creatures either. You could actually use them as treasures, you know, things that you gather in the dungeon. Maybe treasures is the wrong word. Perhaps the quest would have you going through the dungeon. Why am I not illustrating this? And you've got to save the dragons. Perhaps that there is a story beat that in your campaign, the king says we need to have the support of the dragons to help fight off the encroaching chaos or dread. We need to have dragons on our side, and oh look, the enemy has captured a bunch of baby dragons in order to try to raise them into adulthood and do their dreadful or chaotic bidding. I think that this is a great way to set up a story wherein your heroes can try to save these dragons and get the dragon faction on their side, because if you have a dragon on your side, after all, who's going to argue? I'm not entirely decided on what I am going to do with them, but at $2.99 USD, these 8 dragons were kind of a no-brainer. Next, this value pack was $3.99 USD, And when you consider that there are 24 dragons in here, if the first pack was a no-brainer, this was absolutely a must-buy. I actually really like the material this pouch is made out of. It's really thick material. They didn't have to go that hard. Okay, these guys are far less rubbery. There's still like some flexibility to them for sure. They kind of feel like they could be just a less dense version of the plastic used to make the miniatures that come with the 2021 HeroQuest. These guys aren't going to be bent into place very easily. You'll have to use the hot water trick, I imagine, to do that. I gotta go test and see if that even works before I start counseling people to do it. But the sculpts here are pretty nice if you like this style of dragon. They are pretty simple, but there is a bit of detail where there doesn't have to be for miniatures of this price. Absolutely, this could have been a package of meeples and it could have cost more. But these are okay, and we have different aesthetic of dragon. Now, sadly, there's no Eastern-style dragon here. The closest that we have is probably this guy, and I say that because he's got those low horns, those dragon whisker-style horns. Or they don't, I guess, even have to be horns. Your interpretation of them could be completely different, and that would be okay. All 24 of the dragons stand up just fine. I wouldn't have to reform any of these. And they all very easily fit in 1x2 tile spaces on the contemporary HeroQuest board. I'm sure you could get them to fit on the smaller board as well. It's not like that extra 1/8 of an inch that you'd be losing across the 2 tiles would really be a big hindrance. These guys would still just take up the space longitudinally. You could use these in the exact same way as the small dragons, with having them be present in quests where they might need to be fought. Obviously, this would be a more realistic dragon for your enemies to fight because it is just a whelp. It's not quite a baby. It has grown just a bit. It knows how to kind of tooth and claw a little bit to defend itself. And your heroes might have to fight them, or they could be fighting them really just to knock them back into their senses, get that chaos or dread magic out of them, and then they could have the dragon join the party. And maybe the dragon would be with your hero party for the rest of that quest, providing special boons such as extra attack power or an extra turn of fire breath that goes down an entire corridor. Could be once per turn, could be once per quest. Maybe when the quest is over, the dragon simply leaves because it was just your objective to rescue the dragon from the depths, or perhaps now you have a roster of dragons that you are slowly building up and you are able to select one to accompany you into the dungeon ahead. And the dungeons here, those people trying to protect these dragons and keep the heroes out of them, they might need to be extra tough. And since you're actually also fighting dragons in this hypothetical scenario, the dragons themselves could be pretty tough. You might need to enter a dungeon containing, say, a fire-breathing dragon, a fire elemental dragon, with a dragon that you have previously acquired, who might be blue to represent that he is a water or ice type based dragon. And so when this dragon's attacks meets the fire dragon has much less of a defense, or perhaps the ice dragon's attacks are simply much more powerful against the fire dragon. This could also be used vice versa. I would probably play it out a little bit differently. I'd probably have like a circle of elements going on where ground beats lightning, lightning beats ice, ice beats fire, fire beats ground, that sort of thing. There are more dragons than just that. You've got a white and black color, so you could do easily a holy and dark element of dragon. This is blatantly beyond the scope of vanilla HeroQuest. We don't have elements that affect things in such a way as to be stronger or weaker. We do have elemental magic, but its elemental properties are just generally not considered. And then we've got gold and silver, so you could take these dragons down and you could melt them into awesome ore to make new weapons from. That doesn't sound very humane. He lost me at the part where he would hypothetically melt down the hypothetical dragon in order to make hypothetical swords. All in all, this was $7 USD before taxes, which wasn't very much, so I would say absolutely worth it. I'm going to find ways to implement some dragons into my games. I'm going to show you also a really cool way that I thought of to implement these guys if you are an owner of the classic Dragon Strike. I mean, to me, it seemed obvious enough. Dragon Strike is a game where a dragon is prominently featured in its gameplay. Darkfire is a dragon that will arrive if the timer for the adventure that you're on reaches a certain threshold, and once he does, your heroes have diminished chances of completing the mission. Well, in this version of Dragon Strike, there's just a ton of dragons on the board. I didn't really think any further than that. I just wanted a cool shot of all the dragons out in the grassy fields for the outdoors board of Dragon Strike. I hope that's okay. Yeah, I really want to do videos on Dragon Strike. Dragon Strike actually has a lot of mechanics in it that I really like. Mechanics that I want to take and put into the HeroQuest homebrew games that I do. I don't know how viable they all are, but it's fun to try them at the very least. And I love the boards. And who doesn't? I mean, we've got a similar tile size, the slightly smaller than 1 inch. And although the aesthetic of the minis is generally less detailed or less interesting than the overall HeroQuest style, they are way more interesting than the US classic elf sculpts that we got for Mage of the Mirror. Come on, those guys are out of scale and they lack detail. What are our heroes about to do? Are they going to go fight a bunch of dragons? Are they going to collect a bunch of dragons? Are they going to tame, fight, breed dragons like some sort of Dragonmon crossover? I don't know, that could be up to you to decide. For now, I bid you farewell, brave heroes, as I figure out what exactly I am going to do with this abundance of dragons. Lunch. Tasty. Cornelius, what do you have? Get back here. Cornelius, spit it out. Spit it out. Spit it out, or you don't get your revenue share this month. You need to feed me more around here. Dragon food. That's what we were gonna do with these. Just dragon food.